All right, guys, today's video is soil restoring part 2. My previous video was shot in the same location, so we're right back where we started, and that covered uh, identifying your soil type and the red flags that come along with that, which means water retention, lack of carbon, and lack of organic matter. That video addressed all those problems. This video will cover plant selection to restore your soil. It will also cover bacteria and earthworms and ways to build your nutrition, and that includes trace minerals. Now, I don't know how long this video is going to take, but if I think it's getting too long, I will save one of those topics for another video. I'm not afraid to kind of divvy this out a little bit more because I want to try to explain this the best I can as this progresses from year to year. So in this area, this used to be my clover plot. And this is going to cover plant selection on this opening run here. So this was clover, and I tried my darndest for years to maintain a nice, healthy clover plot. And once I finally figured out the magic ingredients, because of trace mineral problems, it was great, it was lush, but I was stuck in a cycle of fertilizing and liming. So I have to find a way to break that cycle so I can save money. And that way, if there is a future plot expansion, I can afford to do so because I'm not spending money on fertilizer anymore. Fertilizer has more than tripled. Matter of fact, it has gone up. I remember it used to be $6 a bag for a 50-pound bag, and it was at $32.50 at one point, but I think it's actually down to like $22 and something a bag, or $21 a bag. That's bad. That eats up a lot of people's budgets. So I had pre-planned this idea for a while. I started researching other alternatives and different species, looking at pros and cons of them, trying to find something that will suit my problems. And of course, if you watch my first video in part 1, I address the organic matter problem. I address the lack of carbon, and that's why I chose the plants that I did. So in this particular case, I chose deer vetch because it does the exact same thing as clover. It puts nitrogen in the ground, although the nitrogen rate can vary a little bit. It's not the exact same as clover. But the other thing that I was seeking was high in biomass. That means I can rapidly increase my organic matter into the soil. So this was a big check mark for me on why I selected deer vetch. I'm not losing the nitrogen ability like I have with clover. I still maintain that to maybe a slightly different degree than what it was, but I am after soil restoring purposes. Now, eventually I can return this back to a clover plot and see how far it goes without any assistance. And it probably could go a few years. At some point, it may exhaust what it has, and I'd have to start back over, right? Possibly. So deer vetch is definitely a high-end check mark on my list. Now, I need something else. I need plants that can fix something else besides nitrogen, because the vast majority of plants that we tend to put in our food plots in one form or another do fix nitrogen. So you're only fixing one problem in the soil. I have multiple problems in my soil. So I have to expand beyond what I call a monoculture food plot, which is just plant one species over the whole area and be done with it. So I selected as my next plant buckwheat. Buckwheat, if you've seen my pros and cons videos, I'm just going to basically touch lightly on this. Buckwheat has the ability to produce an acid in the soil that breaks down phosphorus, calcium, and other minerals so the plants can use them. So you have different, well, actually, I'm going to save that part for later on the nutrition side. But you have many different stages of minerals, and I definitely will touch back on that. So just hold that thought in your head. But the reason for buckwheat, not only does it help do something else besides fixing nitrogen, it helps me with many other minerals that plants cannot access, wink wink, because of the form that they are currently in. So this can slowly eat away at that and release nutrition that other plants can take up and use. And of course the buckwheat itself will also draw that up and use it in the plant. So these are considered, in all reality, these are really considered the phosphorus harvesting machines of the soil. So there is another plant that is doing something else that is intended to help improve the soil. So buckwheat is kind of scattered all through here. I'll get into why the plot looks the way it does, but this is what I've got for now. So we now need to find something else. What other plants can assist me in building soil? And some plants, it's not necessarily the fact that it may return something into the ground. It's the fact that it can do something different in the soil at a different depth. So that's why on my summer side over here, which you can see the soybeans pretty much about done, I selected plants that fix nitrogen just like I have out here. The buckwheat was also growing in here. I also have okra, sun hemp, and there was one other, there was a sunflower that used to be in here, but the deer pretty much annihilated the vast majority of them. So I picked different plants for different purposes. This is considered the king of nitrogen fixing, so I have a big heavy hitter in my plot helping to restore poor ground. Soybean is not on the scale of sun hemp, but it is also fixing nitrogen. So I have different forms of nitrogen being pumped into my soil when the plants no longer need it. And then we selected okra, and this particular plant is not really giving anything back to the soil other than what falls off of it and rots. So you can see all the leaves have fallen off. This plant is really pretty much done unless it rains again, because I haven't had rain in forever. That's part of the reason why this one has stopped growing just about. I mean, I still got some new limbs there still chugging there, and of course that guy. But this particular plant has an exceptionally deep taproot. So if I have poor soil, I'm looking for any possible way that I can add nutrition toward the top of the ground. I'm talking like your first, I don't know, 4 to 6 inches of soil. Anything from there or up to the very top. I need that nutrient rich to get this plot jump started really fast and grow strong as it develops throughout the summer and fall and winter. So this plant is actually assisting me, and it's not only drawing nutrients out of the deep, it is also kind of acting like a bulldozer under hard soil and pushing that soil apart. That is helping to break up the hard pan and the hard properties that clay has. So that plant is a bonus check mark for me, other than what other benefits I've covered in another video, but I'm focusing on the soil side of things right now. Another plant that I have added into my summer blend would be sunflowers. Why would you want to put sunflowers in your food plot? Well, sunflowers, their root system is like a worm magnet. It draws worms in. That's a big thing. Plus, sunflowers are good at giving zinc to deer when they're young. And as the plant matures, they kind of quit hitting it after a while. But initially, zinc is the primary source of minerals or nutrition for that particular deer. And because of sunflower's ability to draw worms in, this ground severely needs it. So I'm going to stop on the worm end and keep going with this plant selection here. And now we have to figure out different plant sizes, different tonnages that the plants produce. I like plants that grow big, thick, and either tall, wide, whatever it takes to grow high volume biomass. So I want you to take at least a look at what this soybean's doing, because I've got different strategies going on right now. Out here, I tilled, created biomass this way by destroying a pretty decent portion of the deer vetch. But over here, I'm not tilling, so how am I going to get a rotting mat in this soil? That is the sheer volume of dying soybean leaves. I also have dead buckwheat in here. I have okra that has died. So now it's stalks of okra that's remaining. That is leaving all kinds of rotting debris on top of my soil. The soybeans are coming to an end, so there's going to be a huge leaf drop-off that's going to occur here and create a new layer of rotting material. Same thing with my sun hemp. All those leaves that the deer have not eaten, they will fall off and feed my winter and fall crop. So there is a cycle that keeps going every time I change the plants out. Does not matter which strategy I'm pulling here, I am at least getting rotting material twice a year. And in some cases, I might be able to pull it off 3 times a year. But in most cases, with the way this plot is, I've got it twice a year. Because of the way the soybean grows here, it outgrows the needs of my deer and allows it to grow to monstrous sizes, and then returns a lot of the nutrition out of the leaves back to the soil. And then you got those nutritious pods that are right there in front of you. So that's one of the big reasons I want soybean, is to keep helping my soil. Same thing with all these other experimental strips up here. I selected cowpeas for their high tonnage and high bean production. Now this is the first time I've used them. That's why I do these in test strips. And I just want to see how it does compared to other plants that I've got in the plot. And is it a valuable tool to help me not only improve my soil, but get my deer bigger? And so far it's checked off every box on that. All right, so now let's go beyond plant selection. And of course, there's all kinds of other species you could lump into plant selection. I just don't have time to keep listing them all in one video. So if you've got something that's your favorite that you love to use, by all means, you're more than welcome to put it in the comments section. I have no problems with that whatsoever. So now we've switched gears and we're moving to the nutrition building phase, because I think that's easier to go into after just talking about how plants can help boost nutrition. There are different ways to boost nutrition. For those of you that go get soil tests done to determine exactly what your soil average is, you can fertilize your soil to, make up for whatever you're lacking. And let's be honest, guys, when I talk about a fertilizer-free plot, I'm not coming in here and just naturally growing plants and showing you, hey, look, I didn't put any fertilizer out at all, and I was growing something like this. I have to put fertilizer in here in order to jumpstart the ground. I have to build it to get the cycles going in order for this to work. So I'm not egging fertilizer. If you have to, you use it. I'm not saying you don't. If you need it, I would do it, because if your deer are lacking valuable nutrition, you need to give it to them. So over time, though, your goal should be to reduce the usage of synthetic fertilizers. And typically when most people talk about fertilizer, you're talking about P and K, like nitrogen, potash, even potassium. So you have to be mindful that there is more than just what a triple 10 bag offers. And that is where you're going to see your change in your deer. So yes, like the bags that have the triple 10s, the 15-15s, or whatever combination you see, those are just as important as anything you put in your soil. But the trace minerals that you are lacking can be brought in and put on the food plot. I have old videos from my Facebook group where I went and purchased deer mineral. As a matter of fact, you can look at that on one of my videos here. And because of that, I was able to introduce, oh gosh, at least 65 different trace minerals into this soil that desperately needed it. And I put probably 500 pounds of it out over a span of 2 or 3 years. And it made a huge difference in the areas that I put it in. So this area here has a lot. I would say it has 200 pounds worth of trace mineral, and the 200 pounds from here up is divided between those two sections, even though this one here probably took I would say 120 pounds, and the rest of it got divvied up into the top part. So I don't have it completely done yet, and I do look forward to showing you a video on that. But you can revitalize your ground by adding nutrition. It's nothing bad for the most part. There are some side effects with artificial fertilizers, but I can save that for another video. The whole goal here is to get your nutrition to the best growing potential as possible in order to get the most out of your deer. So if you've got bad soil like mine, I'll go ahead and tell you, I used to do mineral stations where you take salt or mineral and dump it onto the soil and let them lick out of it. I no longer do that. There's parasites in the ground that can interfere with bucks' growing abilities, and that is the big reason I stopped doing that. So now I take all the trace mineral that I normally would have used for that and dump it in the food plot. And they're not coming in here digging the ground like you think they would. They totally ignore it. So it's actually a win-win in this situation. So I'm going to build nutrition not only through plant cycles, I'm going to build nutrition through artificial stimulation to start off with, and that can go as long as 4 or 5 years, depending on your budget or how bad your ground is. I mean, if it takes 6 years, or if it takes 7, keep at it. Eventually, you're going to hit it, and you'll be very happy that you did. All right, so the next thing, in order to keep this video from getting crazy long, actually, you know what? I'm going to stop. This video is already long enough. So I'm going to save bacteria and worms for the next video. And I may include one more thing because I'm making a new one. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, hit that like and subscribe button. And there'll be more content like this coming. You all have a fantastic day.